I would like to take an experiential journey with you that explores the relationship between consciousness and the body. When I say an experiential journey, I mean a journey through the landscape of our experience. And it's a journey that takes place in that could be divided into three stages. Firstly, a brief summary of the conventional materialistic paradigm that informs our understanding of the relationship between consciousness and the body. Then moving into an exploration of consciousness itself, and then in the third step an attempt to experience the body or feel the body in a way that is consistent with our understanding of consciousness. Normally we think that it is our experience of the body that dictates the ideas that we have about it. I would like to try to demonstrate that it is the ideas or the beliefs that we have about the body that dictate our experience of it. So let us begin with a brief summary of the prevailing materialist paradigm that dictates our experience of the body and its relationship to consciousness, to ourself. So, according to the prevailing materialist paradigm, 13 or so billion years ago, an event called the Big Bang took place. Matter and the time and space that house it began at that moment and eventually turned into the universe as we know it. At some late stage in the evolution of the universe, the Earth appeared. At some late stage in the evolution of the Earth, our body appeared on the Earth. A brain appeared in our body. And finally, consciousness was generated by the brain. So try to imagine a body, your body, without consciousness. There would obviously be no experience of a body or a world or anything, because there would be no consciousness present to experience anything. So at some moment, magically, consciousness is generated by the brain, and immediately there is experience. Immediately there is the experience of being myself. And the sense of being myself is limited to the body. So it is obviously not the body that is having the experience of being myself. Prior to the arising of consciousness, in this imaginary scenario, there is no experience, no knowledge of being a body, no knowledge of having a body, no knowledge of being conscious, no knowledge of being myself, no knowledge of anything, period. In this imaginary scenario, consciousness appears in the brain and immediately there is experience. It is consciousness that has this experience. Consciousness's first experience is its experience of itself. The experience that it will later call I. But as consciousness looks around itself, so to speak, it finds that it is located within and limited to the body. So this feeling of consciousness being located in and limited to and generated by the body. In other words, this mixture of consciousness plus the limitations of the body gives rise to the sense of being a temporary, finite, limited self. And this is indeed the way most people believe and feel about themselves. Because it is believed and felt that consciousness is a byproduct of and limited to the body. It is believed that consciousness appears when the body appears. It develops or evolves or ages as the body develops or evolves or ages, and disappears when the body disappears. This is the conventional view of the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the body. And it is the inevitable consequence of, or the extension of, the prevailing materialist paradigm. And whether we know it or not, it informs most people's thoughts and feelings and their subsequent activities and relationships. It is the prevailing paradigm that informs our world culture. So this belief, and more importantly, this feeling of being a self in a body, or being consciousness in the body, could be likened to the space in this room. So now imagine that the space in this room was conscious. It's just a thought experiment. So instead of this room being full of a inert physical space, imagine that it is full of a conscious or aware space. Now, this conscious, aware space that fills this room is analogous to the feeling of ourself that pervades the body. Our sense of ourself pervades the body like space pervades or fills this room. And if we were to ask this aware space in this room what its nature was, the space would, so to speak, look around and see that it ended at the four walls of this room. In other words, at first glance, the space would feel that it was limited to the room, that it shared the shape and the size and the qualities of the room. Just as if most people at their experience, if most people look at their experience of their self, they believe and feel that their self is located within and shares the limits and destiny of their body. And this mixture of ourself and the body, or this aware presence or consciousness and the body, creates this amalgam called the separate self, or the finite mind, or the person. Now, going back to the analogy of the space in this room, if we were to say to the aware space in this room, don't look at the walls, but look at yourself. Take a sample of yourself. What is your experience of yourself? Not what is your experience of the shape or the size or the colour of the walls, but just take a sample of yourself. What do you find there? Do you find any limits there? So the aware space in this room would look at itself, so to speak, and it would find itself empty, transparent, without any shape, without any size, without any form. It would have no sense of being located in a room, because it is not looking at the room. It would be located in itself, so to speak. If you said to the space in the room, what will happen to yourself? We're talking to the aware space in this room. If we say to the space in this room, what will happen to yourself when this building is demolished? The space in this room will consider itself, and it will say, nothing will happen to myself. I will just remain exactly as I am. If we say to the space in this room, did you have any experience of yourself beginning when this building was erected? The space in the room will again look at itself and say, no, in my own experience of myself, I have always been here. I was here before this building was erected. I have remained the same throughout the life of this building, and when this building is taken down, I will remain the same. I won't suddenly be liberated from the limitations of this room. I am not limited by this room, even while this building is present. So, now do the same with yourself. You are the one that knows your experience. If we ask most people what is the nature of this knowing presence or knowing self, they will look at the body and say, myself appears in, is generated by, and shares the limits and destiny of the body. But instead of looking at the body, look at yourself now. You, the one that is aware. Look at the experience of being aware. Just as previously in our thought experiment, the space in this room, the aware space in this room, looked at itself rather than looking at the four walls of the room. So forget the analogy now. Look at yourself, you, the one who is aware. Don't look at what you are aware of. Look at the fact of simply being aware. That is, look at yourself. Take a sample of yourself, so to speak. Take a sample of the simple fact of being aware. And don't allow that sample to be mixed up with anything that you are aware of. Ask yourself the question, do I, the one who is aware, find any limits in myself? It's like the space in this room, taking a sample of itself and seeing if it can find any limits there. Don't think about this. Do the actual experiment. Take a sample of yourself. Just the pure experience of being aware. Everybody is now having the experience of being aware. What is the nature of that experience? If we, the fact of being aware or awareness itself, were to take a sample of our thoughts, they would of course be limited. If we were to take a sample of sensations or feelings or perceptions, they would of course be limited. But what if we, the fact of being aware or awareness itself, were to take a sample of itself, to taste itself, to know itself? Does it find any limits there? Ask yourself the question, what happens to the fact of simply being aware or awareness itself when, for instance, a thought arises? It's like asking the question, what happens to the space in this room when a person enters? Does its nature change? Does anything happen to the space, or does it remain as it always is? Likewise, when a thought arises, does anything happen to you? The fact of being aware or awareness itself. And when the thought leaves the presence of awareness or the space of awareness, has the space of awareness been changed in any way by the thought? It's like asking, when the person leaves the room, has the space of the room been changed in any way by the person? Or does the space always remain in the same condition? Go back to the analogy of the aware physical space in this room. If we were to ask the physical space, the aware physical space of this room, do you remember when this building was erected? The space will say, yes, I remember a few hundred years ago. This building appeared in me. And then if we ask the aware physical space, did you ever have the experience of yourself appearing? The aware physical space will say, no, in my own experience of myself, I have always been here. Forget the analogy, go to your experience of yourself, the fact of being aware or awareness itself, and ask yourself, do I have any memory of thoughts, images, feelings, etc., appearing? The answer is yes, of course. Thoughts, images, feelings, etc. are constantly appearing and disappearing. But now ask yourself, do I have any experience of myself appearing and disappearing? Me, the fact of being aware or awareness itself. And see clearly that if we rely only on awareness's knowledge of itself, or awareness's experience of itself, that we have no knowledge of the beginning or the appearing of ourself. We, awareness, have no experience of our own beginning. In our own experience of ourself, we, awareness, are ever present. And likewise, although we continually experience the disappearance of thoughts, images, feelings, etc., we never have the experience of the disappearance of ourself. That is, we, awareness, never have the experience of the disappearance of being aware. In other words, in our own experience of ourself, we, awareness, are without birth or death. This is not some extraordinary metaphysical idea. It is simply an idea that is derived directly from our experience. So just as if the imaginary aware space of this room finds no limit in itself, nor does it experience itself beginning and ending, so likewise, we, awareness, find no limit in ourselves, nor do we find ourselves beginning or ending. In other words, in awareness's experience of itself, awareness is unlimited or infinite, not finite, and ever present or eternal. In other words, it is your experience now that you, awareness, are infinite and eternal. Don't be put off by the words infinite and eternal. They do not refer to some abstract, philosophical, metaphysical realm. They are words that refer to our direct, intimate, current experience of ourself. In fact, it is the beliefs that ourself is limited and temporary that is abstract and metaphysical and unrelated to experience. The self, or the awareness that we are, has not suddenly become infinite and eternal as a result of this investigation. It has simply been revealed as such. It has simply been liberated from an idea that was superimposed upon it. Its actual nature, the nature of ourself, the nature of awareness has not changed. The nature of awareness never changes. Just like the space of this room never changes. It did not become limited when this building was erected, and it will not be liberated when this building is taken down. Its nature has always been the same, relatively speaking. Likewise, the nature of our self-awareness is always the same, without limits and ever present. It's only when we believe that our self-awareness shares the limits and the destiny of the body, that we seem to become a finite, temporary self. Just as it is the mixture of the space in this room with the four walls of this room, or rather the association of the space of this room with the four walls of this room, that seems to make the space limited and temporary. The space is never limited or temporary. Our self is never finite or temporary. Know and feel yourself to be this unlimited and ever-present presence of awareness. Now allow the experience of the body to come to your attention. If our eyes are closed, and I recommend we keep our eyes closed to begin with, our only knowledge or experience of the body is the current sensation or flow of sensations. See that this flow of sensations appears in this unlimited, ever-present space of awareness, or space-like presence of awareness. In other words, there's a complete reversal of perspectives here. Previously, under the prevailing materialist paradigm, we believed that the awareness that we are, or the consciousness that we are, appeared in the body. And that the awareness that we are shares the limits and destiny of the body. Now, if we stay close to the facts of our experience, we see that the body is a flow of sensations appearing in this unlimited, ever-present space of awareness. It is true that, keep your eyes closed, it is true that our sense of ourself, that is, the fact of being aware, pervades our experience of the body. But this does not imply that it is limited by the body. After all, the space of this room pervades this room, but it is not limited by this room. It is our experience that sensations appear in awareness, not that awareness appears in a sensation. Now ask yourself the question without reference to thought or memory? What do I know from my current direct experience about the sensation of the body? We would only have to think about the body or imagine the body if we were not currently experiencing it. But we are currently experiencing it, and therefore we can refer directly to that experience. It is not necessary to think about the body or imagine the body. If I were to ask you to go to your experience of your bedroom, say at home, your bedroom is not present in your current experience, and therefore you either have to think about it or you have to imagine it. But your body is present in your current experience. So you do not have to think about it or imagine it. You can go directly to the experience. So, in order to facilitate this, imagine that you are a newborn infant. You do not yet have the capacity of thinking or imagining, but you are experiencing your current experience. So experience the sensation of your body in this way. In fact, without reference to thoughts or imagination or memory, we cannot even be sure that the current sensation is a sensation of a body. It is just a raw sensation. So drop the label body. Just experience the raw sensation. And the raw sensation is appearing in this open field of yourself, this open, limitless field of yourself. Know nothing about the sensation other than the experience itself. For instance, our sensations may have two sources. One, they may come from physical circumstances, for instance, the contact area of our legs on the chair. This generates a sensation. And the second source of sensations would be emotions. For instance, if I am bored by this meditation, or irritated, or lonely, or whatever emotion I may be feeling, will also have a counterpart in the body which will be felt as a sensation. However, if we are a newborn infant, and we do not refer to thoughts or images or memories, we cannot distinguish these two types of sensation one from another. The sensation generated by the feeling of boredom would be experienced in exactly the same way as the sensation of the tingling sensation at the soles of your feet, for instance. We would not be able to tell them apart. So make sure that your experience of the current sensation is completely divested of any storyline that accompanies it. Just the raw sensation without interpretation. Ask yourself the question, does this sensation have a clearly defined border or edge? Does the sensation have a clearly defined shape? The purpose of these questions is not to answer yes or no. Don't allow yourself to answer yes or no to these questions. The only purpose of these questions is to take us deeply into the experience itself. Deeply into the actual experience of the body, not the thought of the body, the image of the body, the memory of the body, but the actual experience of the body. The experience that we once used to label the body. Our only knowledge of the so-called body is the current sensation. Does it have a border or a shape? Does the current sensation have an age? Some of us have asked ourselves these questions many times before, and some of us will be asking them for the first time. But I recommend we all ask them as if for the first time. Each time we ask ourselves these questions and actually go through the experiment, not just think about it, but do the experiment, we are divesting the experience of the body of all the limitations that thought has superimposed on it. And we are beginning to feel the body in a way that is consistent with the central idea, the central understanding of the non-dual perspective, namely that everything is known by, appears in, and is made of a single, infinite, indivisible reality made of pure consciousness. We are subjecting our experience to our new enlightened understanding. Which is the equivalent in religious language to surrendering the body to God's presence. We are offering or surrendering the body to the ever-present, unlimited space of awareness. Allowing the body to be progressively divested of the limitations that thought has superimposed upon it, until it is not only known but felt to be made of this pure, luminous, empty substance of consciousness. Ask yourself the question, does the current sensation have a size? Don't answer the question, just go deeply into the experience. Without reference to thought, imagination, or memory. Does the current sensation have a gender? Notice that we are not actually manipulating our experience of the body in any way. We haven't touched the experience, we are just contemplating it. And in this loving, disinterested contemplation of the body, it is gradually divested of the layers of belief, the belief that it has a shape, a size, an age, a contour, a gender, etc. And as each belief is peeled away, so to speak, the actual experience of the body begins to emerge. In other words, our idea of the body, our ideas about the body are not generated by our experience or our feeling of the body. It is the other way round. The way we feel the body is dictated by our beliefs about it. Later we will also see that the same is true of the world. Ask yourself the question, without reference to thought, imagination or memory, do I have any experience of the current sensation weighing anything? Liberate the apparent experience of weight from all preconceived ideas. Just experience the raw intensity of the sensation. The sensation that is generated by our legs on the chair has a certain intensity to it. But see that without reference to thought, imagination or memory, that intense sensation is simply floating weightlessly in this open, empty field of awareness. In other words, weight is not an experience, it is a concept. Understand, and more importantly feel, that your body has no weight. It is just a sensation or a vibration of a certain intensity, floating like a cloud in the sky of awareness. Notice that even to suggest that the body is a sensation floating weightlessly in the space or the sky of awareness is to credit the body or the sensation with too much existence of its own. It is a legitimate formulation in the early stages of our investigation. But the closer we come to the actual felt sense of the body, the less accurate this description is. See that the experience of the body is not really a sensation, a discrete sensation, albeit suspended weightlessly in the sky of awareness. It is more like a vibration or a pulsation. Ask yourself the question, what is the stuff that is vibrating or pulsating? What is the substance whose vibration is this sensation? Don't think about this. Touch the stuff the vibration is made of. What is the stuff that is vibrating? You are experiencing the vibration. Therefore you must be experiencing, you are experiencing the substance it is made of. See that the vibration or sensation is not something other than the space of awareness in which it appears. Just as a current in the ocean is not other than the water. Just as the current is a movement of the water itself, or a vibration of the water itself, so the experience of the so-called body is a movement of consciousness, the activity of consciousness, a vibration of awareness. If we, awareness, touch the stuff the vibration is made of, all we find is ourself, a movement of ourself. So the 3 stages of this journey could be summarized as follows. In the first step, our experience of ourself seems to conform to our idea of the body. We believe and feel that our self is located in and shares the limits and destiny of the body. In the second stage of our journey, we explore our experience of ourself. We, awareness, explore our experience of ourself, and we recognize ourself to be unlimited and ever-present, this open, empty, luminous, space-like presence of awareness. And in the third step, our experience of the body conforms to our new understanding of ourself. Our experience of the body is progressively divested of the limitations that thought superimposes upon it, and it is progressively experienced as unlimited, open, empty, transparent, luminous, spacious, free of tension, without borders or boundaries. At both the beginning of our journey and at the end of our journey, we experience the body. But at the beginning of the journey, our body seems to be something solid, dense, limited, located, made out of stuff called matter. But by the end of the journey, by the time we come to the end of our journey, the body, the same body, is experienced as transparent, empty, without an age, without a shape, without a gender, without a size, luminous, empty. Without limits, spacious, sensitive, free of tension. Made of pure knowing, that is necessary is now to take this new feeling of the body out into everyday life. And to feel the body in this way in the midst of our everyday activities and relationships.